We're going to business now with Madison
are.
Reedy.
Good
Welcome.
evening.
How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Not too bad. Also, a trucking company seems to be going pretty well, heading towards a acquisition.
It is trucking along quite nicely.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you. Excuse the pun. This is about TIL Logistics. So this is a freight and logistics company. They have a pretty low profile. They listed on the NZX last year in an IPO share float, which we don't see many of those currently at the moment. So it sounds boring, but it's actually pretty cool. So I would say so myself.
Oh, I love a truck story.
They are essentially the oil of the economy. They do keep it moving, and the acquisition they announced today kind of proves that, really. So they acquired a company called Specialised Lifting and Transport Group, very long and tricky name, often called SLTG, which is a little bit easier to say. So they own Transcar, Machinery Movers and Huge Movers are their brands. And essentially what they do, which will now fall under TIL's umbrella, is what they do is they move big stuff to big places. So the likes of wind turbines, big ships and boats and things like that. So this company that they bought has that specialised gear. So now with that under TIL's roof, they now have the ability to do that. And that actually gives them a bit of a leg up against big Australian companies that come here, big Aussie freight and logistics companies that usually kind of rule the roost in that type of market.
Right.
They can now compete against them. And that acquisition was for 19 million.
Right. Okay. Now, yesterday we talked about the NZX, and there's a bit of a stoush there. There was some harsh words said about it, and there seems to be, no, it's growing, this stoush. What's the latest? What's going on there?
Yeah, so it's certainly heating up and is at boiling point, I would say. Wow. So this is between Chris Swasbrook, who is the he runs a fund called Elevation Capital. So he has elevated the stoush that he has pursued with the NZX, and the NZX chairman came back and said something today. He basically noted, what Chris had said. Essentially, the reason why Chris started this kind of, stoush, and he kind of came out slamming the NZX, he said it has very poor performance and compared it to the ASX, put out this big document called NZX Now and said, it needs to turn around its strategy now, needs to do better, needs to rid of its culture of wasteful spending. And as I said the other night, cited, a few of its staff going on kind of lavish trips overseas. He just says that's not good enough and more needs to be done. And he says in the past 48 hours, when we spoke about this last, that he's received a lot of support from other NZX shareholders. And he says that they've come to him and said, how about we all have a special meeting of shareholders and we put all our heads together and come up with some ideas as to how we can join forces against the local share market. And he says that they're seriously considering doing that, and whatever that would mean to the NZX, we're not sure. But this is what the NZX said today. So the chairman, James Miller, put out a statement saying that we too are impatient to deliver results for shareholders, but we're working hard on everything and we remain on track to deliver that strategy. Don't ask what that strategy is because they're giving more details in February next year, so I can tell you then.
Seems like a fairly straight-back response from the NZX.
It certainly was.
Otherwise, how are the markets performing?
The NZX Top 50 Index closed down about 0.5%. That's 37 points to close at 9,257. New Zealand dollars buying at 64.9 US cents, so the US dollar's gained again today, which isn't so good for us. The 91.6 are we buying at to the Australian and 50.2 to the British pence.
Great. Thank you very much. Madison Reedy there with the latest in the business world.